I want to tell you about the series Strike Back, 5 and 6 series. At the beginning of the series, we are shown Afghanistan to show the war. Americans cannot cope with the resistance and ask for support from the air. A plane flies to them, which is ready to strike the enemy, but the enemy has a special computer that redirects the code of the missile to another place, and the plane hits the Americans with the missile. Section 20 of the MI6 team begins to investigate, and they tell Joe to find Gerald Daxter. This man drove the missile. He must be found and find out who he works for, and then bring him to the MI6 headquarters. Joe prepares for the mission, learning special notes so that he will not be declassified. The nurse tells Joe to be careful on the mission. He goes undercover as an arms dealer. At this time, Frank arrives at MI6 headquarters to monitor the facility with them, and will be in control of everything. Joe goes to the Pakistani directorate where he wants to offer weapons for war, but is turned down. Then he says he has the codes for missiles and aircraft, but he is shown to the door. Joe leaves, but at the entrance, they put a sack over his head, tie him up, and drive him in a white pickup truck to no clear destination. He's taken to Baxter's place with a fake ID that's exactly Joe's target. He begins to offer weapons there, but the Americans begin to seize, and Joe and Baxter are tied up and taken to a military camp. All they report back to MI6 is that they only found Baxter. No one else was with them. Frank starts lying that he doesn't have Joe. Then ML6 begins its investigation. Baxter works for the American government, and the fact that the plane hit the Americans was the government's decision, and everything was agreed. Baxter used to work for the CIA, but he's been recruited. They are held in a barracks, but then they are put in a car and taken away. Joe and Baxter manage to escape. Joe fights and saves himself and Baxter. They escape from the military, and they report back to headquarters that they have escaped. While they were walking through the desert, a drone flew after them, but they hid in the rocks. Baxter calls his contacts and a car arrives. Baxter takes Joe to a real buyer who will probably buy all his weapons and codes from him. Shark has to buy the codes from Joe. When they arrive at Shark's place, they are searched by security and take Joe's gun. They get to Shark's place and Baxter says he's a scout. So they tie him up and start torturing him. Baxter's real name is Jerry. Then we learn that Shark works for the American government. Jerry has a flash drive with a recording of the traitor. That's when Steve passed away. This is the friend he fought alongside in the first episode. Then Joe and Baxter team up because they want to save themselves. And they get away from Shark. As they're driving through the desert, they meet some girls in burqas. They point guns at them and ask them to vote for their favorite singer on X Factor. They take their car and drive off. Baxter and Joe walk and head onward to be picked up. But no one rescues them, and Baxter is killed. Then there's a scene where Joe's friend comes to see him, and they talk about the situation in Iraq. And he gets killed and Joe drives off in a car. And that's the end of the season. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.